No, a year and a half, and I still can't get myself unmuted. Hi, everybody. So we've been joined by a couple new colleagues here. Lois, do you want to introduce yourself as our DRC lead for this session?
I am Lois Backen. I live in the Minneapolis area. My home society is the Minnesota Genealogical Society, and I have been serving on the steering committee with all of my great colleagues since before the holidays this year. Really a pleasure to work on this project.
Thank you, Lois. And in case we see Susan suddenly go dark or run for the basement, which, by the way, happened on a call I was on just last week, she's under tornado warning. And if something goes off and she disappears, we'll know that she's headed for the storm cellar. So
I wish I had one.
There, Susan.
Thank you.
All righty. So once again, we have a quick little quiz to see what we all retained. I know it's getting later in the afternoon for everybody, but let's quickly spin through question number 1. We're back on Slido again. And go ahead and throw up the first question, guys. Great. The big one. What's our job as a delegate council? Couple more folks, but clearly you're getting the gist of it here. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. There we go. Let's roll right into question number 2, guys. What unique perspective does the Delegate Council have to provide feedback on programming and services? What's the unique perspective that you bring? It's a good question. Where is the ice cream? Really? We should have hubbed it to everybody's door this morning. Oh, Mags, you've got the ice cream. Oh. Great, 24 of you have put in your answers. And so this is one of those that I don't think any of these answers are necessarily wrong. Even question A probably has some validity to it. After you've been doing it long enough, you do have some psychic powers. But clearly your on the ground knowledge of what your organizations and societies need is a good answer, as are a couple of the others because of what you do and how long you've been doing it. Great, and let's go to question number 3. What role in the governance of NGS does the Delegate Council play? Okay, and 23, 24, 25 of us are dialed in. And you've got the right answer, needless to say. So while we're on your Slido, though, let's keep going. Let's roll right into one of the first activity questions and see what you say. So here's a scenario, right? Your organization is having trouble maintaining its small genealogy library. What's the best way to initially raise this issue within NGS and the Delegate Council? What's the best way to raise this as a potential issue? For a couple more. Great. So let's bounce right into the back to the gallery view, guys, so we could talk about this for a moment, because I think all of these answers have some validity we should chat about. So you can take me into gallery. Great, thank you. So you'll notice we phrased the question, what's the best way? That doesn't mean it's the only way, but we are trying to get to what is the best way in some of these scenarios for us to figure out where stuff goes, right? Where if I've got an issue, what do I do with it first, second, or third, as you may want to bring it for consideration. And clearly the idea, kind of the first thing would seem maybe to be, let's get a sense from my colleagues how big an issue this is, right? Let me ask out there in the community, what's going on with everybody on this particular issue? And I think based on that, you'd then get a determination, oh, this is huge. Everybody's wrestling with the same thing. Maybe this is something that needs to get up on the agenda. So, you know, that's kind of the logic here of how we bring issues into our community, talk about them, assess how big they are, and then figure out what do we want to do with them. Is this something the council can address as its agenda? And I know somebody also indicated there to email the council chairperson. Certainly a possible way to say, hey, we've got this issue. Do you know anybody else who's dealing with it? And I'm sure they would probably say, why don't you throw that into the community and see what they think about that.
There's another really good idea that popped up in the chat, and that's checking the white papers to see if that issue's been covered. So dipping into the resources on the NGS website is another great approach.
Great, absolutely. So the point is there's so much material that sometimes, and we're all guilty of it, I'm guilty of it, right? How many times do we just pick up the phone or send an email to somebody to say, do you know the answer to the question? And they'll say, yeah, it's right here on the website. So either I didn't take the time to search the website myself, or it's hard to find, right? So those sorts of things to help figure out, and I think you heard staff say they're working on that website to figure out how do we make that optimally searchable, so that everything is easier for everybody to find, so that it is an easy process to start there and see what resources exist as you then move on up the chain from there. Let's go to the second question, if we could, guys. There we go. That's one we just did. So some of your members have concerns about virtual and hybrid programming. I think we've been talking about that a lot today for events. You believe others in the NGS community have the same issues and that the NGS is best suited to address these issues. How do you best raise this initially? A couple of options here. Great. So again, a couple of answers, which is fine, right? We're talking about what's the best, doesn't mean it's the only, that there are other avenues to take here, right? So any one of these three might be a first step to ascertain what's happening in the space amongst your colleagues with and where to go with this particular issue. We certainly spent some time on it already today, of the challenges that this represents to all of our organizations likely now and into the future, because this genie isn't going back in the bottle for many of the reasons we've already talked about. So it's going to be with us for a while. And a note here, answer C is really a different version of answer D, correct? Yep, absolutely. And let's go right to the next one, guys. You've noticed that many member organizations are having problems with finding new volunteers and leaders. Another hot topic today that we've talked about. What should you do as a council delegate, given the fact that we've talked about this as a big issue? And 20 of you have gotten it right, 22. Clearly, we're getting to the end of the gang coming in. Both B and C are certainly correct opportunities as to what to do here. Great, and that obviously resonated with all of us as we've been on our discussion today. Excellent, and guys, I think we've got one more. Let's go to one more question here. You'd like to see a change to the NGS website. What should you do? Great. So a couple of you have weighed in. I think this is another one where there could be two or more answers to this. For something that's an error, right? You just notice an error that it's a simple mistake. It could be a typo. It could just be something. Certainly the contact us page on the website makes the most sense. But if it's a bigger issue, right, where I could see where, hey, we really want a speakers bureau. We want some of those sorts of things that we've talked about today as well. Clearly, that might be appropriate for a delegate council meeting as an agenda for a new resource to be added to the website. So that makes total sense, but either of those two answers. Guys, can you take us back to gallery view? So thank you. I think we're getting the sense of what we are hoping you're getting as to how this is all supposed to work and the layers of how it works. Questions or comment or input on anything we've talked about and shared today on kind of this role of council to the NGS board. It's all clear as can be. Mags, I think the ice cream has gone to your head. Let me just check. Anybody else have any questions about, how the structure is going to work going forward?
That's great. You've done your job.
Gee, okay. So, what else did you come to today wanting an answer to that we haven't addressed somehow, some way at our time together today? Did you come, I had one burning question and no one's addressed it. Now's the time. There's something that your board asked you to find out about, you've been worrying about with this whole structure, all these changes going on that you wanted to make sure you got an answer to today. I can't believe we've actually covered it all. Go ahead, Sheila.
I don't have any burning questions or anything like that, but I will just say that today's been a real education for me and a good one. And I'll have a lot to tell the group, my group, and for a lot of the questions I think that I have or I see other people having, the bottom line is we just got to live through the next phase. We've got to see what happens next. And just like tech, the definition of tech to me is we do something different tomorrow than we did today because we figured out it's going to be a little bit easier or quicker or whatever. So I'll just say it's been a real education today for me. And I'm very glad that this came together this way, even though I got like arm twisted into doing this today. This wasn't my first order of, I think I'll do that. It's really been educational and I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Sheila. Who else? Go ahead, Doug.
I just had a question I needed clarified. The bylaw review by Bobby King, is there a charge to our society or is that a free service?
Great. Dawn, can you answer that or Lois?
I think there is a small fee involved. I haven't seen the full proposal, so I'm not positive.
I think that news is so late breaking that it's not even on the website yet. So stay tuned. I'm sure, I know that is a great service.
Right, I did hear Matt use the term a nominal fee. So I think there is a fee. It doesn't sound like it's outrageous or should break the bank.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. Kathleen, I saw your hand up.
So for me, this has just been great because I'm part of two organizations, but the one I'm here as a delegate for is the one that I technically represent. But what's fascinating is everything was a hot topic today. And these are all things that I've been trying to work on within the two organizations. And I'm that excited, Energizer bunny that comes in with all these great ideas and almost scares sort of people when I'm like, well, we need to do all this common sense stuff. But because they've never done it or they've, not really, I don't know, it just seems like there's some hesitation at times of that unknown instead of looking at it like the cap is completely screwed on the lid and half full, or versus what if we can take the lid off and it's half empty and actually there's beyond, it's a seed instead of an actual capacity element. And what's great is now I have the knowledge that I can actually go, I'm not so crazy after all. This is something that from an industry standard and also from a community organizational standard that a lot of societies are working on. So this has now given me this sort of leg to stand on as I articulate and try to work through some of this, these growing pains.
Great. So number one, you can validate the fact that, hey, I'm just not making this stuff up.
Right.
And number two, we've got some solutions. There are some solutions that either I can access or that are available to not avoid the mistakes that folks that are worried about opening up that Pandora's box. You can say, no, we can figure this out because others are doing the same thing or have gone before us and are ready to share, right?
And also
Right.
we're all going into new territory together.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Gail, I'll be right to you. I saw Carol's hand up first. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is the delegate council steering committee dissolving, or is that an ongoing part of the delegate council, or what's the structure of the delegate council?
Great question. I'm going to throw that to Lois.
Sounds like an excellent question for Dawn.
Well, if you want me to. Yeah, so the steering committee job is winding down because our task was to define the delegate council and lay out the structure and organization, just build the framework for it. And then, which was touched on in a couple of the presentations, there will be a chair of the delegate council and a vice chair. So in essence, right now, I've been the chair and Sam has been the vice chair, and there'll also be a secretary. Now, the delegate council will seek a person to become the chair and the vice chair as well in their upcoming meeting in August. So at that time, I think I think there'll be some, looking for some recruitment nominations, if you will, for filling those positions to lead the group forward.
Great. Thanks, John. And Gail, go ahead.
This has been very timely. Just last week at our annual meeting, I was asked by one of our members, what does NGS do for us as an organization, and what does NGS do for me in particular? So this has been very enlightening. It will help me go back to our organization and tell them what's going on with NGS, because there was that void after FGS went away, why NGS was ramping up their member organization interface. So this has been very timely, and we're actually going to be able to see some benefits to our membership.
Great. Excellent. That's what we're hoping that you would say and see, right? Because it's all in, okay, now show me and let's see it all working. But as you've heard, we've got a couple things in the process, but you get the structure and the plan. And we know that the member community site is coming, is just putting the final touches on it based on some of the recommendations out of here. So, and you can see the value of that just in terms of how that's structured from there, just in terms of being able to access the resources of this group and then the bigger group from there. Great, thanks, Gail. Who else has some comments or sharing they'd like to provide to the group? Or another burning question we haven't answered yet?
I have a question.
Great. Hi, Marianne. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Marianne McConkin from the Citrus County Genealogical Society, and we're a small group. And you have $50 as a membership. And that's a lot of money for us. What do you say?
Well, luckily I don't have to say anything, but turn to Lois.
All right.
Well, we have some terrific, are you thinking, Marianne, of why people should be individual members or why organizations should be members?
The organization.
Okay. Well, I think the opportunities through the Delegate Council and the ancillary resources for sharing are really the main thing, the big enchilada here. Terrific opportunities to pick the brains of societies and libraries and museums and archives all across the country to get new ideas from people, to find people, maybe people in your local area that you haven't gotten to know that could help you to do things that you've been thinking about doing, but maybe you didn't have the skills. Maybe they have the skills that you don't have, and you have some skills that they don't have. And this is a great way to meet and broker and exchange. Also, I am, the more I look at the resources on the NGS website for societies and organizations, the more impressed I am by them. I mean, we've got information, we've got the events calendar that we've talked about today, which is a great opportunity to publicize what your group is doing. We have a couple of really excellent and extremely inexpensive books on society management that really should belong in any society's library and be passed around by the board members and devoured. We have some great resources on nonprofit management. We have the information and answer series of short, topical, quick sheet type resources. Topics like fundraising, working with your board. We have, if you want more than that, we've got access to all of the forum magazines published by FGS. And that's a tremendously rich mine of information on just about all of the topics that we've been talking about during our different breakouts and other sessions today. And if that wasn't enough, we've got a library of webinars from past FGS conferences on the same kinds of topics that that can be shared. And I believe that organizational members have a limited license to use those, for example, for a board meeting. And so, you know, like lots of great resources for your society.
Yes,
Marianne, somebody's asking, how small is your organization?
we have about 100 members.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
And so I'm familiar with all of the NGS topics.
Mm-hmm.
I've read all of their folders and their magazines. I've read them all. And they're not very helpful. And as far as the lectures go, I don't think you can use any of them, because I think their webinars are all coded. They're all, yes, they're all coded so that no one can use them. So I don't think anyone is about how to use them. So I think we've been paying $150 for talks, for programs. And so we're running in the red right now.
I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds as though if you're saying the webinars are coded, the ones I'm talking about are the ones under the societies and organizations tab that were migrated there from the FGS conferences that were in the past. And those should be accessible through your organizational login. And if that's not working for you, please do contact the membership services people and tell them that you're not getting access to those, and they should be able to fix that for you.
All right, I will.
Please.
Dawn,
Yeah.
Dawn, did you want to share on that? topic?
Well, I think Lois did an excellent job of highlighting all the valuable resources that NGS has put out there and or carried through and forward from FGS. And, you know, that the Delegate Council is about supporting organizations, but not supporting, I shouldn't say not supporting, you know, the resources we have are to help your leadership lead your society in a positive direction. Things like creating a speakers bureau, you know, if we want to do that, you know, we can do that, but we're not providing speakers for member organizations or sessions for them to present. All societies stand alone on that. So I was kind of confused about the webinars that are available, because those are geared towards organizational management and governance and structure and how to run your organization. Those are the things that are available.
Okay.
I think the only other point, Dawn and Lois, that I would add based on what I've heard is it's this opportunity to be a voice, right? This opportunity to kind of say, this is what we need to increase the value of what we pay. And that voice is going to be delivered to the board through this council to say, hey, we'd like to see X, Y, and Z. And it's that ability to shape the resources, products, and services that you want and need as organizations. This is your voice and way to get that to happen. So it's a question of whether or not that's valuable to you or not.
And maybe some of the other organizations you can collaborate with and find ways to get out of the red. I don't know, maybe they have solutions that you haven't thought of.
Great. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Marianne. I see two other hands up. Let me go to Deborah first, and then Vicki, I'm coming to you.
Okay, in the past, like I had mentioned earlier, I belonged to a family organization that decided to drop out because they weren't getting the benefit. I had gotten them to join because I was hoping that would help them improve their membership numbers. And we reserved a table at the FGS conference for that purpose. One of the other offers that FGS gave that it looks like NGS is considering a tweak to was the discount to the Forum magazine that I could offer to our entire membership, not just a benefit for the board. I've seen that you're considering offering individual memberships at a discount. So that might be what you're considering to take the place of that, because that's one of the issues our members have with any of the organizations I belong to is, what are we using this money for that helps us? And the renewal that we had this year had an offer where we could pay more to get the newsletter in the printed form instead of digital, which we did so that we could have it in the library to let those that had that kind of question see what is published by NGS. But because the libraries are closed, they haven't really been able to access that yet. And that'll probably be an issue that comes up with our renewal next year was that even worth it to pay that extra money for that? And I know in the past, NGS offered like a collaboration with Find My Past that they dropped a few years ago. And FGS, they also had a thing at Christmas time where they would offer discounts on technology things like computers and other things that maybe a society could buy through that collaboration they had with Microsoft or whoever it was to get new items for their library. So those are the kind of things that our board and our members would like to see in the future as a benefit to help the society improve.
Got it. Thank you, Deborah. Appreciate that perspective and those ideas and what you'd like to see. That's great. Vicki.
Yeah, I just want to say, being involved in a small and on the state level, I think it's important that we as a community, a genealogy community, you're stronger with a large voice. And I think we should be involved with our state, our state society and with the national society. This is where you learn about the new things that are coming out or the laws that are changing or this and that. And like Dawn said, this NGS is a lot about how to run a society. And it's extremely valuable, some of the things that you get off of your website. Actually, I just did a thing at our last month's meeting about, did you know what NGS offers us? And I had listed some free things that are on the website that you don't have to go into a member to be. But I just think as a community, it's important to belong to these because we're stronger as a larger voice.
Great. Well, thanks, Vicki, and thanks for sharing. Dot, good afternoon. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Dot Martin. I'm the president of the Ohio Genealogical Society. And as far as the delegate council meetings, with one coming up in August, has a date been determined, or is it going to be the first Saturday of the month, or are you going to put it out for the council members for a straw vote, or how's that going to be handled? Has it been determined yet?
Thanks for your question, and I see Dawn nodding knowingly.
Okay.
Well, you're exactly right. I think it's going to be put out as a straw question because, as the steering committee, as a group of 9, we didn't feel comfortable saying, based on our schedules, we want it to be on this date when we have, 400 plus representatives out there. So I believe there will be some sort of survey coming out to indicate on a reoccurring basis, like you said, whether it's the first Saturday of, the August and other dates or what. So be looking for that in the near future.
Great question.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Dot. Other questions or comments? Hi, Sheila.
I have a question that's might be out of left field, but on Friday, Focus on Societies, the Focus on Societies Day on Friday, which I just kind of find out about since we've gone through today. Is it too late to sign up for that or to participate in that?
And I'm looking around for one of my colleagues.
For somebody who knows
who would know an answer to that.
I know the answer because I thought I had signed up for it and was really shocked when I discovered inadvertently that I hadn't. And I fired off emails and they said, sorry, there's no way you can sign up now. They did say that some of the presentations are being taped or, digitized, whatever, and will be available at some later date, but they don't know how that's working.
Thank you,
I thought I signed up
Carol.
when I signed up for the conference. I was really shocked to discover I hadn't.
Thank you,
Great.
Carol.
So I think what you're hearing is a couple of things. Number one, we're still figuring out how we make sure we capture all this content and deliver it back to you in a way that you can find it and access it as easily as possible. And some of that is still under construction as we get there. But that certainly is the intent to help make all that happen. Thanks, Sheila, for the question. And thanks, Carol, for jumping in and clarifying. So all your issues have been covered. All your questions have been answered. Life is good. So there I thought I saw a hand go up. No, Dawn's adjusting her glasses. Dot, and do you have another comment? Nope, your hand just went down. Okay. Go ahead, Dawn.
So I'd just like to reiterate from when I was in another group earlier, how we were talking about, if everyone understood the concept of, the 3 C's. So we've got the communication, and obviously you can see we're talking, we're communicating, and we're already collaborating, how they interconnect with each other. And then, the council role of sending things up to NGS. But through this interaction and communication, the collaboration that we're doing, we can, when we've already seen people helping people and not necessarily solving a problem, but helping you to get answers and get knowledge and share knowledge as well. And then, the larger issues we'll be able to take up to the NGS board, and, whether it's we need programming on this, and we've guided them as to let's develop a program to teach us how to this, or we need support in that, or we need to take a stance on record access for this, just the different ways. So it's not that everything has to be approved by NGS, for sure. I want to stress that we're going to work together and share. And as Vicki said, we're stronger as a larger group. We can just really vie off of each other's experiences. And I'm really looking forward to it.
One of the topics that I know we touched on that I haven't heard come up today was the whole issue around privacy. We talked about it a little bit at the very beginning when we talked about kind of the non-disclosure agreements that MEGS had, I think, and relative to involving people in the Gerontological Society of Pennsylvania. But this idea of privacy of all of your materials and how does that play out in today's world? That's probably one of the biggest issues we all face in how we interface and work in today's technological atmosphere. So it's those sorts of issues that I think are going to come forward for there to be a decision. Does this body and or the NGS need to make some policy around those sorts of issues, or offer some guidance, let's put it that way. That I think that's what this group serves to provide, and be that kind of listening post for what's happening out across the nation in your organizations that you're grappling with, and we can put some, group think to figure out how to solve it.
And it's so valuable, don't you think, that we have the opportunity to hear directly from all of you representing all of your organizations, your societies, your libraries, etc. NGS has got a lot of great people on their staff and on their board, but by no means a monopoly on ideas. And I know that we're hearing ideas today that didn't come up in the steering committee. And I know that will continue. And I think that is really, really exciting, because that broadens what we're thinking about, and it broadens NGS's horizons as far as what they can imagine to provide. And so it's not just a case where NGS is having ideas and pushing them out to its organizational members, but a case where the organizational members are saying, hey, here's what we need, or here's what we really liked when we had FGS. And, so is that going to continue, or what's going to happen with that? That's fantastic input, and I really appreciate it. Thank you all.
Yeah, I mean, this is, at the end of the day, this is your organization. So you have the ability to shape it for what you want and need in what products and services are made available. And obviously what sharing is made available. Question from Janice, are any of the facilitators here able to talk about RPAC and how some states still need liaisons? Go ahead, Dawn.
Well, RPAC and the Delegate Council, excuse me, are two separate entities so that's one thing to keep in mind. So actually, no, we don't have any knowledge to answer any of those questions. As you might be remembering, FGS was very invested in RPAC, and it's such an important thing that it does need to stand separately, and we can't focus just on RPAC or just on supporting, and growing societies. Those things need to have their own separate groups and do their work separately. And a lot of us are probably involved in both of them, but just that they are both important and need to stand on their own.
And Lois posted the link to RPAC in the chat there.
Yep, and from that RPAC page on the NGS website, you can go to the page for the state liaisons and also for the RPAC blog. So it is pretty nicely wired in here.
Great point. All right.
Thanks for bringing that up. It's really important.
There's another one. Hold on here. Let me get it. Is NGS preparing feedback to USCIS? Great question.
Yeah, these questions that those of us in the breakout don't have an answer to. We will find out, and NGS will communicate via one of its channels the answers to those. I just want to make sure people know that.
Yep. And then lastly, from Diana as delegate, will I have access to NGS recommended links or just administrators?
Currently, it's just administrators. There's, I believe, some sort of membership transition in the software that they're doing. And when that's complete, I believe it's supposed to be both the delegate and the admin. But
This is where you buddy up with your admin.
yeah.
And we're about to get yanked back. I just want to say thank you for your participation today. And